Straight on
Straight on,
it.
boom. So we'll be live just shortly. Like perfect.
Nice.
Um, so yep. Aye. Right. So according to this, we are live. Hello, YouTube.
Hello, hello.
No doubt the next time we do this, it will end up giving me hassle. Right, I need to try. I
Don't
actually
forget
need
to
to.
click record as well.
Yes, there we go. Just mentioned it. What's the uh, hoping I don't get feedback because I was in YouTube and I could hear myself all. Anyway, let's just see if it does that. I'm hearing myself. I'm not sure. Okay, just trying to remember what we. There wasn't many talking points in the Grand Prix, in all honesty,
No,
that that I can
I
remember.
thought I thought DRS worked better than previous years, even though still wasn't fantastic. But it seemed that there was a little bit more action into the first corner. But it was I thought there was these big cars. It feels like there's more clumsy comings together. Like, I think the Sainz Behrman one was. I
Well,
don't know
that we
how they
could
get.
talk about the Saints Behrman. We're obviously
Yeah.
talking about McLaren and the whole
Yeah.
swapping round.
Mm.
A bit a quick touch on Verstappen
Yeah.
and the fact that he won it, which is a bit of a surprise.
Mm.
Leaves my wee book. Chaser predictions. I don't know if they were that bad, but no. Or maybe I'm just that used to them being bad. Because it was just me and
I
you
was.
that done that one. So,
Yeah, I felt I wasn't too. Well, I got Verstappen right for pole.
yep.
I nearly got the top three right. Obviously, just Verstappen and Norris are the long way around.
Yeah, we'll
And
need to do a bit of checking because
and that
the,
bad
the,
qualifying for Williams really screwed me.
yep. But also, we had the rookies. You had Beerman, I had Hadjar.
Oh, nice.
I had Hadjar fourth, but I don't think he was fourth. But I'm sure he was better than Beerman because of the penalty. So,
Oh,
um,
bloody hell! Yeah, I forgot about that.
did he get hit with that penalty? So that's a chat. And
Mm.
also, because we're a wee bit later, we could also talk about the thing that I put up in in the Slack about kind of not being into McLaren as much this year with the
Mm.
championship. Like that, like,
I think that link. My views of it is it links to what they did on Sunday because it feels like it's taking the drama out of the championship a bit.
they're Newton, and I don't like that.
They've neutered it, yeah. It's sort of become this team first approach is sort of it's
Aye,
taking it's taking something away from them, something away from
yeah.
the.
I mean, I posted it on socials. I said
Mm,
I just said one of the team put this on a Slack. What do you guys think? So I can
mm.
always dip into the socials just to get a bit of a conversation.
That's not a
Uh,
bad idea, actually.
so we'll see what they say. So we're on YouTube. I'll start recording. For some reason, it wouldn't let me minimize the screen if it was recorded, which is bizarre.
It's
So it does.
helpful, yeah.
Uh, okay, so welcome along to the Everything F1 podcast. Apologies for a wee bit later for a review of the Italian Grand Prix. Just life getting in the way, couldn't quite get our schedules to work together. But I'm alongside James. Hello, James. How are you today?
Yeah, good. Thank you, Coops. Excited to talk a bit of F1 again. The week's flown by, but I'm looking forward to a bit of F1 chat.
Yeah, I mean it's not too bad that we're a wee bit later because we've got nothing on this weekend Grand Prix wise. The next one's
Yeah.
Baku, which is the following weekend, and obviously start of next week we'll get a wee review podcast going for that one. We can discuss all things Baku. But this is the Everything F1 podcast. We are on all our socials: Blue Sky, Twitter, or X, whatever one you want to call it. We're on TikTok. We're on YouTube. Most of our socials are on join EF1, except TikTok, which is EF1 official or official EF1. Never get that right. I will at one point in my life. And on YouTube, we are Everything F1. Go along, have a subscribe, look at some videos that we've got on there. We're still running a competition when we hit 500 subscribers, and one of the lucky winners will get themselves a Speed Champion set of their choice from one of the teams. But we need to get to 500 before we can do that. We'll do another one at 1,000 when we get there. So that's all the housekeeping out of the way. Let's get into it. So it's the Italian Grand Prix was just past there this weekend. Feels like a lifetime ago, but it wasn't really. The winner was. It's like it shows you how things have changed in Formula One in the last couple of years. That Max Verstappen is kind of a surprise winner. Uh, he really did a good job. So, James, what did you make of the reigning champion, soon to be ex-champion? No disrespect to him, but we all know where that's going to go. It's going to go high at one way. What did you make of his drive at the Italian Grand Prix?
Yeah, it was. I think it was a fantastic drive, and I think we've seen this year with Verstappen that when he's at a low downforce setup with that Red Bull, it seems to work particularly well for him, where he's able to handle it. We saw it in Spa, for example. Imola's obviously got relatively relatively low downforce with the long straights to overtake, and he sort of deals with the you know the back end of the car quite well. So I thought it was a really good drive, and it reminded me a little bit of deja. Well, it gave me a bit of deja vu back to 2023, where he just once he got past Lando again on lap 3 or 4, whenever it was. I thought Lando would be able to stick with him, but actually he just pulled away quite methodically, didn't he? Really, and sort of pulled that gap out and kept going and kept going and kept going. And I kept thinking, at some point, Lando's going to start reeling him in. Really, I thought for a while they were is he saving his tires and all this sort of thing. But it was a fantastic performance from Max, and it's one that we should never forget that he's capable of doing. And at any opportunity he will do. I need to remind people that he very nearly lapped his teammate when he won the race. I thought he hasn't been celebrating there, but it was actually Sonoda driving down the pit straight in front of him. So just shows, I think, where Max is. I don't think it's necessarily that Red Bull. I think it's Max's performance. So yeah, really good drive from him. It's ended his streak, his drought of was it 4 months since Imola, the last time he won a race. So yeah, I think it was a really good drive from him, and one that we've seen so many times. I like to think he's probably sitting there thinking, don't forget about me. I'm still the best driver on the grid. And I think it was a great performance from him altogether. I'm happy it doesn't happen so often anymore, I must admit, but I think it was a great performance, and yeah, you can't take anything away from it, I think.
Yeah, I think I have to echo those ones. Those comments. I was pretty similar. I thought, yeah, it's just a bit of tire saving. There'll be later stints where they'll come onto it, but I think it's just everything. All the variables came together for Max. Got himself in front and stayed there. And I think looking in back on hindsight, it looked like Max's plan was he needed to be in front from the start.
Mm.
if he got stuck behind the McLarens and couldn't quite get away through, ruined the tyres with the dirty air, I think that would have kind of ruined it. But I think he knew if he could get in front, he would have been fine. I'm sure one of the drivers, and I think it was the Calder room, said that they were unbelievably slow in the corners, but so fast on the straight, which is a good combination to have in that track. You know,
Yeah.
get close enough in the corner, can't pass them on the straight, you're not close enough to try and
Yeah.
get them in the corners.
Hmm.
Um,
I think
interestingly,
that's what Verstappen did in Spa, for example, isn't it? He handles it in the corners and just drives away in the straights.
well, that's it. And interestingly, the kind of first couple of corners. What was your take? Did you think that Max should have put that, given the position back? Interestingly, because they gave the position back, there was no involvement from the stewards. I think it was noted, and they came up saying no further action because they gave the position back. Was that the right thing? Do you think that Red Bull kind of put their arrogance aside a wee bit and went, you know what, we can battle this. This is only the first lap. Or do you think they should have stuck it out?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think going a bit further back in that on the main straight, I think there's nothing there. Lando sort of knew he was driving into a bit of a cul-de-sac. I think with you know that the track narrows and that grass is there, so I don't think there's anything initially in the first straight. And I think he should have given that. I think they were right to give the position back. I think those are the rules at the moment. And how many times have we seen Verstappen throw it down the inside? And I found it ironic that he came on the radio and said, "Oh, Lando released the brake." He's like, "Well, yeah, that's your trick, lad." Do you know what I mean? And so I think Lando outbroke him, got to the apex at least alongside, if not ahead, made the corner while Max didn't. So I think by the letter of the law, yeah, he should have given it back, and they did. And again, obviously, it paid off for them anyway because they won the race. I think my big thing about those sort of thing, we saw it a little bit with some other drivers. It's just these cars are so big that we don't see that. I've been watching 2011 back on the F1 archive, and you just see so many more in those sort of corners. You see so much more side by side. The car on the inside leave. There's enough space for the car on the outside to at least get around. And I think with these big cars, that's just the way you have to pass sometimes is those corners that Lando was late on the brakes, which is absolutely fine, but there's just never enough room. So Max was sort of forced. I think Max really had to go on the had to cut the chicane because I don't think he was really making because Lando barely made the corner as well, but he did make the corner. I think by the letter of the law, they had to give it back, and I think that was the right decision. Obviously, if Lando then drives off and Max finishes second, maybe I think a bit differently because it would look differently at the decision. But no, I think it was the right decision they to do, and I think there's a bigger question about combat and these cars anyway. But I think he cut the corner, he didn't make it. Lando did, so yeah, he had to give it back.
Yeah, I think you were kind of right. Even if I think it was more a kind of marginal call. I don't think they were able to kind of argue themselves that it wasn't going to get intervened by the stewards, or it was. So they thought, you know
Mm,
what, let's pull it back. We know we've got a bit of pace in the car, so let's pull it back. And it's good that maybe it's Lauren Mackey's. It's a wee bit more kind of humble in that sense. We always thought that Christian Horner was a wee bit more arrogant, and maybe that fed through the team. Like, no, no, we'll deal with it in the steers room, you know. Whereas
mm,
now it's kind of like, do you know what? Let's just deal with it, and then we'll move on from there.
mm,
An interesting comment, actually, speaking of Lauren Mackey's, he actually said that they were forced down a interesting setup by Max Verstappen. It was Max during the pre-practice that kind of came up with this idea for the setup for the car for the race and for qualifying, and it worked. I mean, pole and win. Well, what more can you do? You're not going to get the
mm,
fastest lap because it's not the fastest car. It
mm.
was the fastest Grand Prix. It's beat the record. I don't have the record stats to hand, but that was something that we're talking about. It's like an hour and 13 minutes. It did feel
Yeah,
particularly quick watching the race.
Monza's always
Uh,
really quick, isn't it? I think it's because like, the
uh,
average speed's so high.
and there wasn't really any kind of safety cars. There was a couple of yellow flags. We'll discuss the kind of, well, the one major incident, really, to be honest. So yeah, first place, second and third went to the McLarens. They sorted. They got what they could have got. Oscar Piastri did say that Max was just too fast, and that was as good as they can get. Now, that's not to say it was a boring race for them, because we do have a wee thing to discuss, which is probably why we're going to talk about this later on. We're going to get into the socials. I put a wee post up which we'll discuss, which links into this. So, partway around the race, they decided to bring Norris into the pit. Norris was no, Norris was behind. Was it Norris or Piastri that went in
No,
first?
Piastri was behind. But Piastri went first. Yeah.
So Piastri went first. My apologies.
Hmm.
Uh, Normally, under most circumstances, the way that McLaren generally do it, the car that's got track position usually gets first refusal or first pit because that's generally the more favourable time to do it. They decided to do it the other way round. They told Norris, "Don't worry about the undercut. We'll give you it back." Unfortunately, when Norris went in a lap later, his pit stop was 4.5 to 5 seconds, right about that.
Yeah, five. Yeah.
Piastri's was what, 2 seconds, like an
Two.
average.
Yeah.
Don't think it was like the lightning like 1.9, but it was good. It was a decent stop. It was the front left that didn't go on right. I don't know if the gun didn't, flash green to allow him to go, and it took a couple of seconds for him to get on time. So because of that, Piastri overtook Norris into second place, and they turned around and they went onto the radio and went, "Piastri, could you let Norris by? It was a slow pit stop, whatever, you know, fair's fair and love and war, as the kind of were saying." Oscar Oscar came out and what was it he said? What, because of a slow pit stop? That's, it's unlucky, that's part of the game kind of thing, but all right.
Hmm.
And then he let him by.
Hmm.
That whole situation has now kind of exploded on the interwebs. With several memes. I think one that I found online, it wasn't mine, so that's why it didn't go on the socials. I found it. Don't want to take other people's ideas as much as I was annoyed that he came up with it before I did. Which was it was like the video graphic. Oscar pit in, Lando's lost the front wing, we need to take yours off. And they were all the similar theme. So I'm going to fling it over to you. What did you make of it? Did you think it was a good idea? And can you kind of understand the reaction on the socials about it?
Yeah, I can understand the reaction on the socials. I think there's a few instances where I think generally McLaren have been pretty consistent with the way they run their papaya rules, and obviously we don't know fully exactly what those papaya rules are, but we have a general gist of what they are, and I think generally they've been pretty consistent. I think this was following that consistency, but I think the main thing I feel is that they sort of make their own problems sometimes. I think they mentioned about Hungary 2024, and then with Italy 2025 being similar, that wanted to protect against the undercut of the second car. In 2024 Hungary, it was Hamilton. This time it was Leclerc. But both instances, it didn't really feel like that big a risk. When Piastri came out, when he pitted first, Leclerc was 4 seconds back. And so I just feel an extra lap is Leclerc going to necessarily make up 4 seconds? I doubt it. And say again, maybe they're guarding against a slow start, which you saw for Norris anyway. But it felt like they're making their own issues by being very risk averse. And but to be fair to them, they came on the radio and discussed it with Lando, didn't they? So we're thinking about pitting Oscar first, and Lando came across the radio and said, "Well, if it doesn't force the undercut, I'm absolutely fine with it." And I think this whole scenario, I think this instance sort of sums up maybe why people are getting annoyed because it seems to be taking the drama, taking the excitement out of it. Lando being a little bit too nice, I think. I think he should have been like, well, no, I'm in second. It's my right. I'm pitting.
Hmm.
And McLaren, I also don't think necessarily McLaren should really be just. I know they're very open with their drivers, but at some point, just make a decision. Pit Oscar and display it to Lando, and it comes out and it's fine. But it just feels there's a lot of stuff going on that's they're protecting both drivers, which is fair enough, part of the team. They're protecting the team, but they're being a bit risk averse. And what we want to see, if there's a title fight between two drivers in the same team, we want to see fireworks. We want to see sparks, and that's what we saw with Hamilton and Rosberg all those years when they let them fight and they let these things play out, even though they did the same strategy, like they couldn't do different strategies, which we've seen McLaren pull out different strategies for the different drivers in the same race. But I think they were right to ask that Piastri to let him through because that's been consistent to what they've done in the past. I think Piastri came across the radio and said and alluded to the fact that they've discussed that a slow pit stop's really part of this, and I think he said, I thought they were fair game, part of racing. Why is that now changed? which is again an interesting point. The McLaren just trying to make things up to Lando for his obviously quite a large DNF last race. So it's an interesting one. I think overall, as it goes, Lando deserved second. I know that's not really, that doesn't really matter because if he's in position, he's in position. But then Oscar was very happy to let him, well, not very happy, but he let him pass. I think would Verstappen do that? I think we saw on the radio, Verstappen definitely wouldn't do that. We've seen in the past not doing that, even when he's won the championship and the team want him to let Perez pass. He was like, absolutely not. So I think that's just been the general ethos of the team though this year and the way the drivers race each other. So I wasn't surprised, and I think it was probably the right thing to do. But I think at some point they are going to have to let it fly, and they're going to have to let the two drivers go for it, or the drivers are going to have to go for it themselves and be selfish. Because at some point, Lando's going to. Because what happens if 4 races to go or 3 races to go, Lando's pulled it back to say 15 points, something like that, and they say you're going to have to let Oscar through because something. I think at that point he's got to
He
say
won't
no.
do
I'm
it.
not. I can't do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think what are you like? This is your dream, and I think it comes at a particular time because of the rule changes for next year. These two drivers are probably thinking this could be my own opportunity. They trust the
Yep.
team that they could build a good team, a car next year. I'm sure they do, but you never know, and they're in this position. What point does it get to where the drivers say, "Okay, enough's enough. I'm driving purely for myself now." And I think once the constructors happens, potentially, but also really they're going to win the constructors. Like even now, even though it's not been confirmed, they are going to win the constructors. They'd have to take each other out every single race, and that's just not going to happen. So yeah, I think it's taken a little bit of the shine out, it's a bit of the excitement away, but I think it was the right thing to do. Very long answer short, that it was probably the right result for McLaren, and I just hope soon that let's see some elbows out and gloves come off, and we see some headbutting going on.
I think, yeah, I can't see them trying to force any kind of rules when you're talking a couple of races to go and both of them are within a chance.
Yeah,
Every driver who's in that, I mean, the year that Lewis lost his title to Rosberg on that last race, he was trying to
yeah,
back the track up, like the field up,
mm,
so that Rosberg would get caught out. Because in
mm.
that point, Rosberg didn't need the win. Lando
Mm.
needed, Lewis needed to win. Rosberg
But
didn't.
do you think if he sped up or but went by team rules, do you think anyone would have? Do you think everyone would have gone? Ugh. Do you know, I don't think anyone thought less of him because he was trying to win the championship in that moment. He was like, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. Do you know what I mean?
Everyone,
I think
everyone
like,
agreed by it. Everyone's like, yeah, I would do
yeah,
exactly the same. And I don't think any
yeah,
driver, and I don't even think the team could argue it. I mean, they have to be
yeah,
seen to go, you need to go up the pace. And he just
yeah,
turned around and went, I'm losing my championship. I'll do what I want.
mm,
And you're like,
yeah,
yeah, I think, well, what do you expect? Any driver's going to do
yeah,
that. And I don't
mm,
think, as much as Lando and Piastri are dead set for the constructors, I mean, it's going to be a clean sweep with both championships for McLaren. It's individual, and the point you made there about next year. Like, we don't know what's going to happen next year. Aston Martin with Adrian Newey could stall a match. A Honda are a good car. The Mercedes are a good car. I think, from all intents and purposes, the Red Bull powertrain is the only one that there's question marks on in regard to reliability or power. But again, we won't know that until they come out. So the yeah, it is one of those ones where it could be their only chance. They could be a Jenson Button and be a single championship winner. They might come on, go on and win more. You just don't know. And this is their chance where they know it's going to be one of them. So they're not going to be gentlemanly. So yeah, personally for me, I thought it was a bit silly. I just didn't
mm,
see. It's one of those situations where why make hard work for yourself? Why complicate matters? There is absolutely no need. Piastri wasn't really, didn't have the pace really to pass Norris. Norris wasn't going to get past Verstappen. Leclerc didn't have the pace to get past the McLarens. If they did, they wouldn't have the pace to maintain it. So the top four was pretty much set. So why would you pick someone who could get the undercut and put yourself in a position where a couple of seconds slower on a pit stop, and then you're going to have to do all this shenanigans? And even Max Verstappen thought it was funny. You're like, oh,
mm,
what, they swapped place? Oh, for a slow pit stop? Ah, all right. Lambiassi's like none of our business, but we're kind of thinking the same thing. Like,
mm,
okay, like what we're talking about Hungary, like did Piastri need to blow up his engine to make it fair, or so it's definitely an interesting conversation to have, and we'll bring back McLaren later on in the conversation, but we're going to quickly touch on a couple of other small incidents in the race. in all fairness, the race overall wasn't the most exciting race in the world. Probably one
Yeah.
of those, it wasn't dull in a completely dull sense, like your France a few years back. And do you know, for anyone who's been watching, it's been a while since I've mentioned that Grand Prix. I used to mention it all the time. Uh, but it wasn't, other than, so the only other incident that I can really think of that was really something worth talking was Sainz and Beerman. So
Mm.
now, I can't remember which chicane it was. It was early on in the race.
Second.
Second, Beerman goes down the inside, was relatively far alongside. Sainz takes the corner, hit each other, have a wee spin, get on with it, and it ends up being Beerman who gets the penalty. Now, they weren't overly impressed online or during the coverage that Beerman should have got the penalty. My instinct when I saw it initially, and even when I saw the on board reviews, that I thought that Sainz came into the corner and didn't give him space because I thought Beerman was firing up alongside. Clearly, the stewards disagreed. What was your take on it? And do you think Beerman should have got the penalty? I'm on the kind of opinion that it was a racing incident. Both of them spun out. Both of them probably got a wee bit of damage. It, that's it. Like,
Mm.
just get on with it. Shake
Mm.
yourself down. The two of them probably in the paddock have a conversation about it. They probably won't bear any grudges. Beerman, we've got to remember, is a rookie. Carlos has been around long enough. We slap of the helmet more than likely, a wee chat, move on with our lives. But this just came in. It was a 10 second, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah,
good
it
one.
was.
So that's my opinion. I think it wasn't warranted. I think it was a bit harsh. I think it was a racing incident. What's your take?
Yeah, I agree with you really. I think it comes back to the point that we be making a bit slight over policing. I think it was a definitely avoidable incident, but I think it's more avoidable on the side of Carlos Sainz. He didn't leave as much room. You could like Bearman was like halfway alongside. I
Mhm.
think his front wing was very much by the side pod, if not further, and Carlos maybe thinks, oh, it's my corner, so I'm going to turn in. But I think if all he's really done is lost himself time, because I think he was in a good position to stick it around the outside, have the inside for the second part of the chicane, unless Betterman does some crazy switchback, but that's just hard to do in that chicane because the cars are so big anyway. I think Carlos would have kept the place anyway. I think he could have left more space, and I think then it comes back to them giving the penalty to Behrman. It comes back to this rule that the front axle has got to be alongside the front axle at like towards the front of the corner, which I think is just an mainly unrealistic expectation of someone trying to overtake as you're coming from behind, and why we see instances like Lando Norris, Max Verstappen at the beginning of the race when Lando knows he's got to get right up there
Mhm.
to at least have like an idea of keeping the place. So then you go into it probably catch too much speed. So then you have to push the guy out wide. So I think it was harsh on Behrman. I don't like to think that the stewards had given Carlos because obviously Carlos got a bad penalty in Holland, which I didn't think was particularly his fault either, and a relatively similar situation, which is maybe why they gave Behrman the penalty in the first place. But I just think that is a racing incident. Why are we over policing things? One guy sticks his nose up the inside relatively well. One guy doesn't give enough space. They both spin around, keep driving. I just didn't. They get Behrman gave himself a penalty by spinning and waiting 10 to 15 seconds anyway. So
Well,
I don't think it was like a clear cut. He's a massive. I think those 10-second penalties should be you've dived down the inside massively late. You've hit his rear tire, spun him round, and you drive off. That is what a 10-second penalty should be about. And again, watching 2011 recently, where's the drive-through penalty gone? I love a drive-through penalty.
yeah, drive-through was good. Yeah, the
It
five
was just a
seconds seems to be the 5 and 10.
Yeah, 5 and 10, and I get it, but like you can do it at a pit stop, do it at the end of the race. I don't like that. I like you get a drive through and you got to take it within 3 laps. That's just feels cleaner to me. It feels, and there's something about the drive through. It feels like a punishment. While the 10 seconds feels like you can make it that up. You can get around it. While the drive through was you get through it, and that's it. You have to do it. And I think not that I don't want to go off piste here, but I think going back to it, I think Ben was unlucky. I think it was a racing incident as well, and I think there's a bit of over policing going on, which when you just need to dial back. Not everything's so clear cut.
No, I think the problem we have is it's the same situation with the Carlos Sainz one in Zandvoort that stewards can only enforce what's written in the rules.
Hmm. Yeah.
And clearly, when they dialed down in it and looked at it, Behrman didn't quite have the car exactly where it needed to be, and it was a bit too,
Hmm.
what's the word? It's a bit too kind of, I can't tell what I can see it. It's just too much
Mm.
analyzing of a
It's a little
situation.
bit like VAR in football, right? Like it had like the width of the line of VAR matters about if you're onside or offside. Do you know what I mean? There's those
Yeah,
little details you think, well, why is it going so granular? You know what I mean? I think that can
yeah.
be sometimes
Just
like, say he's half a yard further up. Is it no 10-second penalty? Does that really make a massive difference in the whole incident? You know, it's that sort of stuff which just can be a bit frustrating,
yeah,
I think.
it is. And the unfortunate thing is the drivers kind of have to live with it because the rules that are written for that sort of situation were partly because the drivers wanted it, and now they're complaining that it's
Mm.
too much. Hi, you made your bed, lads. Put sleep in it.
Mm.
So other than that, it wasn't really too much excitement going on throughout the race.
Mm.
Uh, Nico
What did you
Hulkenberg
make
did.
of? So go on.
Yep, going for it. Well,
I was going to say, what do you make of Alonso's suspension failure? That was quite
That
spectacular
was
on the.
that
That
was
was interesting. We haven't
bizarre,
seen that for
wasn't
a
it?
while, have we? Yeah.
Yeah, just took it a wee bit too wide, got to the rough edge, and plunk.
Just
I thought
gone.
it was the rear one, and then I realised actually when I saw it again, I was like, oh no, it's like one of the front wishbones went.
Mm.
Uh, and you must have clipped a couple of curbs, got a bit of microfractures with the vibrations, because it's not that they break because of forces, it's the micro vibrations through the suspension when they hit those curbs because they're not smooth.
No.
They rattle. It's like those the painted lines in the UK when you're on the motorway and
Mm.
you get too close to the edge. You know, you hear, oh,
Yeah.
sorry. You know,
Did he?
it's.
Had he just pitted?
I can't remember
I
now.
feel like he might have. I don't know if he just pitted, but I don't know if because I think he may have just pitted again. Don't quote me on that, but I feel like he might have done. And maybe that was something. Maybe there was something slightly off in the pit stop, or we've seen it before with wheel nuts not being fully tightened or something. But it was an interesting one. We haven't seen that in a long time. Suspension going on a curb.
No, I just think I think Alonso's maybe clipped a curb or went a wee bit wide a couple of times, bit of microfracture, weakened the bolt or something, or
Mm,
a wee seal like and
yeah,
just cracked the suspension. And once that force goes through the carbon fiber, it's
it's
strong.
gone, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just doesn't take much. So other than that, it did not. There was only two that didn't finish. Well, Hulkenberg didn't start.
Mm,
Called in the formation lap to retire the car. I think it was a hydraulic issue because I think Wheatley was the Sky uh, paddock pit wall guy that weekend, and later on during the race they said there was a hydraulic problem. And it was I think it was a new power unit, and they really didn't wipe around the car. I mean, the hydraulics in a Formula One car powers everything. So,
yeah.
from the
Nowadays, yeah.
steering all the way back to the horn, they don't have horns. By the way, sorry, it's well, Charles Leclerc's got a telephone holder apparently. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe that's why he's not getting pole positions anymore.
Yeah.
So that was unfortunate. The last of the runners was Stroll, so not a great weekend for the Aston Martins. They kind of flattered to
Mm,
deceive, do well, do crap, do well, do crap. It's bizarre. Colapinto and Gasly down the back, but we'll just do the top 10. So the top 10 were, as we discussed, we've got Max Verstappen, Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri. Charles Leclerc came in fourth, pretty decent for the Tifosi considering the
yeah.
recent exploits. George Russell, again, George Russell didn't do anything, appeared in fifth. There you go.
Yeah.
Lewis Hamilton, pretty solid weekend for Lewis up there in sixth place. He was putting in some good moves during that weekend. Alex Albon in seventh. Gabriel Bortoleto takes the rookie championship in eighth place, followed by Antonelli and Hadjar to round up the top 10. Carlos Sainz, Carlos Sainz and Oliver Behrman just behind,
Mm.
with Yuki Tsunoda, Lawson, Ocon, Gasly, Colapinto, Lance Stroll was the last of the runners. Yeah. So before we move on, we've got the predictions. We'll do that just shortly. But give me your out of 10 for the Italian Grand Prix.
I'd give it a solid 6.5.
Yeah, kind of going the same for me, about six. I
Mm.
don't quite like the point fives. A bit funny that way. It's like me. I don't like light switches being the opposite. If they're next to each other, they have to be the same.
Yeah,
So
get
I'm
that.
not really a big fan of the point fives.
That's fair enough.
So
That's all
I'm going
good.
to go over a six. A bit me. It wasn't boring, but it wasn't
Yeah.
like, oh my God, what's happening here? Uh,
Yeah.
so before we move on to just a wee kind of talk, a wee bit of talk about the weekend and something that I was discussing before we went live, the predictions. So weirdly, it was just us two the last time we done this, when we done the preview. So that's going to be quite easy. So I will go with yours first. So you went with Max on pole. Well done, good for
Take
you.
that.
We had a wee bit of a giggle, but but
Came
I had
through.
I had my humble pie. It was nice with a bit of ice cream. Enjoyed it.
Nice.
Enjoyed it. You
I'm
went
happy you
with
enjoyed
Land.
it.
Yeah, I don't like it too much. It starts to get stuck in my
It
throat
doesn't
there a
take
wee
all.
bit. Yeah, it
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
But occasionally I can handle a bit of the old humble pie. Top three, you went with Lando, Oscar, and then Max Verstappen. Okay, slight
Hmm,
wrong order. I think you won down, so pretty
not bad.
decent. You had a Williams here. I've just wrote Williams. I'm assuming that meant a good thing, because I didn't write his stat.
I had I had Williams, both Williams in the top seven.
Right, I've
Um,
put seven underneath. So right,
yeah, and
okay.
I remember thinking during the weekend, I was like, why did I go seven? If I think I'd gone if both Williams in the top 10, that would have been a good enough, bold enough prediction, but maybe not. But do you know what I mean? I think why did I go seven? But
Weirdly, Alex
hey,
Albon got seven.
he did get seventh,
So
exactly. I
so
think,
Carlos
and their
Sainz 11th.
qualifying really ruined me though. Like, but both
Yeah,
of them
it
got
did.
knocked. They're like 13th, 14. I was like, bollocks.
Yeah. Carlos Sainz, if Behrman hadn't helped him to have a wee bit of a spirit, he could have got himself in the top 10. We
Who
might have been
knows?
close on that one.
Exactly.
Your rookie was Behrman. Nope, did not
I think he was
happen.
last. I think he was last in the rookie thing
Well,
there.
yeah, so you've got Bortoleto, Antonelli, Hadjar. All three of them were one after the other. Oliver Behrman was 12th. Uh, Liam Lawson here, rookie? No, I don't think.
Uh,
Colapinto, yeah,
I
so
guess
more or
we're
less.
yeah,
When you're
yeah. I
talking
guess we
about
want to count as a rookie, Joe.
when you're talking about the clear rookies, yeah, he
He
came
came
last,
last.
but
Yeah.
not by much. Only by a cut. Well, two places. Hadjar was
Mm.
10. So I had Lando Norris on pole and Lando Norris taking the win. I had Charles Leclerc in second just because it's the Italian Grand Prix and I really wanted them to see them going mental. And
Yeah.
then Piastri third. So I did not win that one. It was pretty much a clear victory for you, James, so you can take
Thank
that one.
you. Thank you very
Uh,
much.
and I had Hadjar fourth again. And Hadjar the rookie leader, which didn't happen. He got a point, but it definitely wasn't fourth. So So, what I'm going to chat about now, because we've had a couple of days to kind of digest everything and the socials we talked about with McLaren. So, I have been struggling. I've been having a bit of a crisis of faith, shall we say. Now, I'm not a religious person, but it's papaya style faithness. As we've all been quite open to everybody here and listening to us over the years, we all say we're McLaren fans. I have been very open. I'm not generally a fan of a team. I prefer certain teams. I've always been a driver, so when I first started, it was Senna in the early 90s. Yes, I'm that old. And also, Juan Pablo Montoya followed him through the kart series, which was, for anyone who doesn't know, it's kind of what IndyCar used to be. There was a splinter series back then, the political stuff. And then when he came in, so once he left, I didn't really follow a driver. Kind of didn't have a driver, so I went with McLaren kind of slow. Maybe it was because they were so bad. I don't know. Maybe it was more to do with the Senna connection. Anywho, a couple of nights back, I fired up onto our wee group chat that I'm not feeling it with McLaren's championship this year. I'm not excited by it. I'm not excited by what's going on. There was some decent discussions on our Slack. I can't go into it because it went on for a wee while. There was quite a lot of conversation. So
Yeah.
before we came online, I decided to jump on to put this up to the people online and see what they came up with. Before I find that out, what do you think about that, James? Do you get where I'm coming from when it comes to that?
Yeah, I do get where you're coming from. I think that it's not overly exciting. Um, it didn't seem to really hasn't really seemed to it doesn't feel like a championship battle, which feels a bit weird to say. And I don't know if that's part of why you know maybe quite connected with McLaren. It feels a little bit what's the word limp. Does that sound does that like
Even the way
it's
that you're
not
trying
building
to
the
dis
passion. Do you know what I
even the way
mean?
you're describing it kind of just proves my point. It's a bit,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I just I can't get excited by it. I can't get excited by the way that they're managing it. I can't like they go on about they're free to race, but they're only free to race under certain conditions. So basically, just
Mm,
say what it is. They're not free to race. There was a discussion before the race about how they would want to work it. So that's why Lando got allowed to go back because of the mistake in the pit stop. So they're not racing then because you're neutering it. You're predetermining it. Now I like wrestling. I enjoy watching the WWE. I have done for a long time. and that's predetermined. I know all this. I'm old enough to remember when I was younger. I was like, oh my God. Now I'm like, yeah, it's just fun. I just enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's very much like McLaren or like the WWE. It's all very predetermined. It's all very much if we do this, you're doing this. If we're doing this, you're doing that. You're free to race, but only on this situation. And you know, there's going to be a situation where it's just not going to be able to happen. And when somebody either makes a mistake or makes a rash move or bumps a or cuts a tire on a wing or between the two of them, I just don't even think that the two drivers have the personality to even have
Mm.
a bit of oomph about it. Like the Rosberg Hamilton thing, I mean, you could see that relationship breaking down. You could see the disdain for each other. Alonso Hamilton, there's a bit of a theme. Vettel and Webber, there were characters and they were fighting for themselves, and not too bad for a number two driver. But this is like
Mm.
they're making so much of an effort to make it as boring as possible. They should be grey and black cars rather than papaya, in my opinion. Uh, so yeah, I put the post on it. I basically said, is it bad that I'm going off McLaren this season? Was basically what I'd said. Uh, Matt on Blue Sky on wiggles.bsky.social,
Nice.
and Wiggles is spelt with a one. If Matt,
Of
if you're
course it is.
listening, what's the Wiggles for? Anyway, uh, he said now that people are looking at McLaren for the team they are rather than the team they were, other than being able to win races, there isn't a whole lot about them. Zach Brown is a douche. That's his opinion. Lando is generally unlikable. Oscar is the most boring personality in the paddock. They ain't fun. And other
Mm.
than the douche part for Zach, I get what he means. And
Yeah.
he's kind of saying it in a very more blunt way than I was saying it. And even when in Zandvoort, when Piastri won, like Zach Brown looked bloody miserable. You're like, mate, like kind of act it. Like we know that most people have preferences, but come on, mate. And then I think there was one clip there where he looked a bit miserable, saw the camera was on him, started smiling, and you're like, ah, come on. Uh, so yeah, that Matt, yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from. You kind of hit the nail on the head. I'm going to jump over to Facebook and just check there because I did see a comment before we come on, which is a kind of similar vein. If you want to come on, we come on. If you want to put your questions to us, we will talk about them at any of the posts that we put up. We might jump on. We might put you onto into the podcast and discuss your comment. Obviously, they have to be acceptable. No, we can't have any real hatred. So play nice, and we'll mention you. So let me just see if these people actually start behaving themselves. Here we go. So, we've got a few comments on Facebook. So if you want to jump on there, let's have a look. So Aaron West or West, only if you also went off Mercedes, Red Bull in their second constructors run. I was never a fan of Mercedes or Red Bull. That's my point.
Mm.
But
There's a difference though there, I think. There is definitely a difference though. Like I think the Red Bull second run was a bit boring because there wasn't really a competition. It was just Verstappen winning every week, which is fair, but there was at least like he at least created a bit of drama and when people watching Perez sort of capitulate. But the Mercedes one, even that was a little bit more. I don't know. This just seems a little. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think the first comment. I think I don't necessarily disagree with the old Zach Brown thing. He's a particular character. I hate when people call them race cars. That's a very big pet peeve of mine. Race car. Oh no, just call it a car. Do you know what I mean? That
I
really
do
annoys me.
yeah, I
Do you
do a
say
lot of
race car?
no. What
Okay, good. I was
I
about to
do a
say
lot
that'd be embarrassing.
of running, so I've done like some ultras and marathons and half marathons and stuff. And
Yeah.
when people turn around to me and say things like, "Oh, you've been out for a jog?" Well, I'm not jogging. I'm running. It's a similar sort of vein.
Similar thing.
Like I
I
might be
think
running slow, but I'm running.
I, th
There's training.
you call it what it is, exactly. But
Oh,
I don't know, I think it's with Americans. Like only Americans call them race cars. No other country in the world calls
yeah.
them a race car. They're a car, and they just happen to be racing them. Like, and Lando, I think he's quite likable in a certain extent. He's obviously grown up quite a lot in the sport, but I completely agree. Oscar is lacking any inch of personality, and that probably is the problem. I think Kimi Räikkönen didn't have any personality, but you knew he did. He just didn't want you to show it, and he didn't want to
Yeah.
like give you anything. Like Well, I think this is exactly who Oscar Piastri. I would imagine Oscar Piastri gets home sometimes and just faces the wall and can
Just sit. Yeah.
just sit there. Do you know what I mean? I like, that there's that meme of Pablo Escobar from I don't know if it's from Narcos or anything. He's sort of sat on the swing and he's just sort of waiting for his drugs to arrive. And he's just sort of
Yeah.
sat there. I can imagine Piastri just doing that just because he loves it.
Right.
I think that, but
That's the meme that comes out when we're waiting in Formula One during the breaks and things.
yeah,
Somebody
exactly.
brings it up somewhere.
It's
Uh,
that one. But I think
yeah.
that's the. But I think you look back at when Formula One is exciting, and it's because there's rivalries and there's personalities and there's clashes. Even with like Rosberg and Hamilton, obviously they clashed. But then even between like the McLaren drivers and the Red Bull drivers and the Ferrari, or maybe Alonso in that era of 2010, 2013, they were saying shit about each other. They were being a bit controversial. They were less polished, I think, than they are now. And I think this is maybe that new era of what Formula One is. They're all quite chummy with each other, the drivers, they're all mates, they all fly around. I can't imagine Webber and Vettel particularly flying around to different races when they were, you know what I mean? There was
No.
that grit, there was that edge to the drivers. I think that's what's missing. It feels like we're just watching a team go through the motions slightly because they're better than everyone else. And we were thinking, even with like Lando and Oscar, with Lando connecting with the back of Oscar in Canada, that sort of just blew
Yeah.
over because
Didn't
Lando.
really, wasn't even a
And,
thing.
and I know Lando was at fault and he apologized. Well, he came in and again took responsibility, which is fair enough. But I just think back, even if Vettel and Webber, Vettel had been on the radio shouting in German, the
Yeah.
Turkey Grand Prix of 2010, that was Vettel's fault, and somehow he was able to twist that round so it was Webber's fault. Do you know what I mean? Like he was able to call him cuckoo and all this. So I think that's what we're missing, and that's what we crave when it's a team fighting each other. We need that edge, and we need that spark, and I just don't think we just haven't got it, have we? So
No,
I think that's the problem.
it's a very PR media trained championship fight. Like they're
Mm.
very much not getting into an argument. And I mean, when you can't, can you get into an argument with someone who just isn't flustered? And weirdly,
Mm.
someone like
Yeah.
Oscar Piastri, who I would say doesn't really have a personality, that's probably the thing that's going to win him the championship because he
Yeah.
just isn't getting bothered. He's
Mm.
the complete opposite of Juan Pablo Montoya, who was he was amazing when it came to things. I mean,
Yeah.
anybody
Exactly.
who's a bit younger and just coming into Formula One these days, go back, just Google some of the things he said. He's sitting next to
Yeah.
Michael Schumacher calling him an idiot because he said he didn't see him for driving him
Oh,
off the track. Absolutely
again,
amazing.
but
And
even with the
Michael's
even the cool down room, you don't even see any of that like
no, they're just
edge. Do you know what I mean?
chatting.
They're all
They're
like,
just
"Oh,
like,
that's
oh,
nice."
look at what happened there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We'll
What we
jump back out of
like.
the
Do you know what I mean?
comments. We've got a
Yeah.
couple
Go
of
for it.
comments here. So, James Houghton, who has said actually used to be on, used to work with us. He's kind of stepped back, but always follows us. Sponge, good to see you. I've not waited as long as I have and supported them through all the highs and lows to get tired less than 2 seasons after they make their way back to where they should be. I am not
Yeah.
sure what it is about the British and some other cultures, but this obsession of putting down anything and anyone British who is successful in what they do is as embarrassing as it is fascinating. We just seem to love to hate ourselves, and that's and what we do. Truly baffling. Now,
Oof.
James, it's good to be Switzerland to keep yourself on the fence there without an opinion. Uh, Pretty strong words there for James.
Pretty strong words. And like I don't disagree with him, but
No,
I'm not saying oh they're rubbish, I hate it. I don't think we're saying that.
no.
I think we're appreciating what they're doing, they're winning the championship. I'm happy McLaren are back, don't get me wrong. I'm absolutely loving it. Like James says, we've been through the doldrums. We deserve this. And once it happens, we win. But I maybe thinking back to Lewis Hamilton and even Verstappen recently, maybe it's the inevitability. You feel like they're going to win it, but then there's just no. We're waiting for that spark because it's two drivers. Um, but I don't think we've been over. Not just because it's a British team. I think we're happy. I think we're just with it, wishing there was something else to really get us going. And I agree with you. I don't think it's been quite the most exciting season when we think it. When you look back to great rivalries, I just don't think this is a great rivalry. It's
Yeah, it
not a
won't be.
gladiatorial rivalry that we want.
Yeah, it's not a rivalry. I don't think it's a rivalry in the traditional sense. It's not Senna Prost. It's not Vettel
Mm,
against Weber. It's not the Rosberg Hamilton. It's not
mm,
Alonso and Hamilton or any of those
mm.
kind of rivalries that you can think of. And I think so that there's a comment that I've just found here. So it's Simon Batchelor again on YouTube said, I don't, he's replying to it. He said, I don't think so. They're just being overly fair. It's a pretty decent way to put it. It's just like what he said there. If the stop had happened in the normal rather than reversed order, then I reckon that it's just bad luck for Norris and Piastri takes the win. He's basically said that you can't see Piastri losing the championship anyway, which I kind of think most people are at anyway. Kind of maybe thinking a wee bit. I just think that like Lando Norris's engine goes, everyone's disappointed by it. Obviously, it looks like Zach Brown. From what we can see, Zach Brown kind of has a preference for Norris. I understand why. I mean, Ron Dennis preferred Hamilton over a two-time world champion. Look what that cost him. So people will have their preferences. And Norris came through the ranks. He was in McLaren for a long time, and he's went all the way up. So why would you not? I don't disagree that Zach has I disagree with the fact that Zach may have a slight preference towards Lando Norris. I don't think that's ever getting in the way of how they manage the teams and races. I think he just sees himself when when he sees Oscar winning. His fan side of him is like, I would rather see Norris because that's my guy and that's the McLaren guy. I think.
Yeah.
Does it matter when all the PR stuff's come out if Piastri wins it? I don't think so. Not really. They'll just try harder to make sure Norris wins it. Interestingly, speaking of that, apparently the rumours are that if the Hamilton situation at Ferrari doesn't get any better, Ferrari are keeping tabs on Oscar Piastri. Now that could be an interesting wee move for them if they trust Ferrari, obviously. Very different Ferrari and very different cars from next year. So yeah,
both are in long-term deals. Like Piastri's just signed new long-term deals. He's not going to be available unless they buy him out.
Interestingly, though, it was released as multi-year. They didn't say what year he was contracted to, so that there might be something in that. Anyway,
potentially.
So I mean, I'm not. I'll love McLaren. I'll celebrate them when they win it, but maybe it's just the kind of way that this championship fight is going, where I think we were all quite excited about the two of them going at it, nose to nose and wheel to wheel, and they've kind of made as much effort as they can to not allow that to happen, and it's like pulling them back or making sure, well, that's fair and that needs to go there. It's like sometimes fate needs to just intervene. Sometimes if Norris has a race weekend where it's a dodgy pit stop or an engine issue, like that's just it. It is how it is.
But do you think it's been do you think it's been affected by what happened last week with Lando's engine failure? Do you think it would have, say it hadn't happened, it's now back to 9 points, whatever, do you think you'd feel slightly differently, or do you think it's just been a slow burn that's actually you just come to the realization?
It's been a slow burner. I think I noticed it at the weekend where, Max Verstappen won it. I just didn't feel quite as I didn't feel overly disappointed that the McLarens didn't win. And I was like, they won the race at Zandvoort. I was like, oh, yeah. I was more excited with the fact Norris retired, not because I hate Norris or anything like that. It was just, oh, that's interesting. That's different.
Yeah.
What's going on here? That's going to cause some issues. And the image of him in the sand dune at the side, and I'm like, that's the image of the championship if Piastri wins it.
Yeah.
Will it be that was the catalyst for Piastri to go on and win it? We won't know until we look back. We might look back at the end of the season when we come together to review it, and we could all agree that was the point where Piastri more or less won his championship. I still think it might be a wee bit too soon because we've got 3 sprints to go and quite a lot of actual Grand Prix to run. But it could be. I think it's not. Maybe I'm being unfair on McLaren. Or maybe it's the fact that I've got myself some Ferrari merch and I really, really like it. But it's just maybe it's just the championship just doesn't have enough space for me, and maybe that's why I'm just a bit in the cobbles that's McLaren at the front, and they're doing it with as least controversy as possible. And you're like, really need the controversy because let's face it, not every Grand Prix we go to is that much fun.
Yeah.
And the rules with the FIA are like, it's a wee bit too much water, we're just going to delay it for an hour. You're like,
Yeah.
race, come on.
Mm.
So yeah, I think it's more just want a bit more, and maybe it's more Ferrari and Mercedes, Red Bull, how they've kind of took a step back because they've not stayed with McLaren, and it's pretty much since the start it's been McLaren, and how much are McLaren going to win by, and which one of the two, rather than could this be settled by, could McLaren win it by Ferrari and Red Bull? Well, Red Bull are doing that, but Ferrari and Mercedes stealing points off them because they're just that faster that weekend, and it kind of ebbs and flows over the season. And we all said at the end of the season that this is going to be really exciting because Ferrari are doing really well. Mercedes have made a step. You can't knock back Verstappen and Red Bull, and none of them have done anything other than
Mm.
Verstappen being the generational talent that he is and flinging the car in first where he shouldn't and winning races when he shouldn't. Nobody else has managed to get anywhere close to it. And I think
Yeah.
maybe that is, but this is the kind of, this is where I'm at. I'm loving this season because I'm always going to love Formula One, regardless of whether, in years to go, maybe this, I'm not doing this anymore and I'll still be watching Formula One,
Yeah.
whatever guys it is. But this season, it's just disappointed because I've expected a bit more in
Yeah.
terms of the championship fight.
I think that's fair enough. I think that's completely fair enough.
So James, don't. I didn't mean to baffle you. I didn't mean to get you angry. I'd still be happy that McLaren have won it. It's been a long, long time since they've won championships and even drivers' championships. I remember all the excitement from McLaren, Senna's back in the day. Uh, so, yeah, maybe it's just the way the season's going. Maybe the second half has seen a bit of spice. I really want the constructors to win because I think then after that it's kind of like, and you just go. I think
Yeah.
McLaren just need to be like, right, one of these are winning it. There's no way you're
Yeah.
not. So, right, we've got our money. That's in the bank. So now you guys deal with what you need to deal with and deal with it. And maybe obviously some ground rules. Try not to hit each other, but if you just want to race,
Yeah.
you know.
I hope so. I really
But
do.
yeah, there's not many other comments on that post. That was kind of the main ones. If you want to comment on anything, get onto our socials. Like I said at the start, we're on at Joint EF1 and most on Blue Sky X, Facebook, Threads. We're on Instagram as well. TikTok is EF1 official or official EF1, and our YouTube is everything F1. Just search for that. Get subscribing. We are still running that competition, as I said at the start, for our Speed Champions Lego set of your choice once we hit 500 and 1,000 subscribers. I think that'll do it for this one. My name's Coops. I've been joined by James for this evening. Thank you very much for tonight.
Yeah, thank you very much, Coop. It's been a good discussion despite not a massive exciting Grand Prix. I think we've got a good amount of discussion going on there.
Yeah, it's a good hour. Who's to say people that like Formula One can find something to talk about in Formula One? Anyway, all that's left for us to say is good night, have a good one, and we'll see you next week as we preview the Baku Grand Prix, which I'm not 100% sure, but can McLaren still get the constructors at that
They can
weekend?
win it there. They can win it
Yeah,
there. Yeah, yeah. I think they have to.
unbelievable.
I think they have to outscore Red Bull or Ferrari, whoever's second, by like 9 points or 15 points, something like that.
So
So
it's not like a tough task, in all
I don't
fairness.
think so.
No.
Yeah, and I imagine
So
that's yeah. I imagine it's gonna
So,
be
so
yeah.
hopefully they tie it up next weekend, and then we can actually get to see if they're actually going to get some sort of fight in terms of the drivers'
Yeah.
championship.
Let's get to the
Uh,
juice.
we'll get some juice in there. Hopefully,
Yeah.
let's see what happens. Anyway, good night. I'm Coops. That's been James. Take care, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye.
See you soon.